If you find traditional therapy tedious, frustrating, or infuriating, or if you've been in therapy for years without quite seeing the results that you've been hoping for, and you're getting a little worried, wondering if you're ever going to finally get there, or if there's just something so wrong with you that you'll never heal, then you're going to want to watch this video. Now, before I get started, I want to say that I don't like knocking other people's approaches. That's not why I'm making this video. I'm genuinely glad that we live in a world with many approaches to mental health and emotional healing, and I fully acknowledge that traditional therapy has helped and saved many people. If you are a great therapist who has helped people, I applaud you and I support you. Or if you're one of those people who was saved by therapy, I'm genuinely happy for you. Truly. I'm not trying to discredit the work you've done on yourself or the person who helped you, and I'm absolutely not trying to talk people out of doing therapy. I also definitely don't want to be one of those guys that says my way is the only way and every other person and approach is wrong. I think it's arrogant and ridiculous to believe that only you know the answer or that only your approach is right. But that being said, I'm allowed to have an opinion and to share that opinion. I'm allowed to not feel comfortable with the traditional talk therapy approach and to believe that there are limitations to how effective it can be, as well as reasons why it doesn't work for a lot of people, and I'm allowed to talk about that. So this video is for the people who are struggling with talk therapy and who are trying to understand why that is, because as much as therapy might have been helpful for you or someone you know, there are countless other people who hate it or stay stuck with it and suffering while doing it, and it's incredibly frustrating when everyone is telling you that therapy is supposed to help and you keep giving it your all and putting your trust in it and showing up and you're just not getting anywhere. It leaves you feeling even more hopeless, even more alone, even more isolated. I know because that's how it made me feel. So I think it can be helpful for other people like me who don't resonate with that approach to get a different perspective and to understand why they're stuck. Just because you like one approach doesn't mean that other people should be blocked from getting help and guidance that's more in alignment with their own needs. And if you give me a chance, you might actually come to understand why I think there are limitations to how far talk therapy can get us, and it might help you get further in your own healing by moving past those limitations. Or, if you're a traditional therapist using the traditional approach, maybe this video will help you evolve a little bit in the way that you treat your patients. So, let's get into it. Honestly, I've got a lot of overall issues with the idea of talking out your problems with someone once a week, hoping that it's going to get you past your emotional pain. So I'm just going to quickly blast through a few of the top ones first, because there's one issue in particular that I want to talk about today. So for one thing, there is that whole once a week thing. That's how most people tend to do therapy. Maybe twice a week, if they're lucky, and have the time and the dedication to do it, but rarely more than that. And I've heard from many of my clients that they were only ever able to get therapy once every 2 weeks or once a month or less. And I mean, come on. Imagine you're trying to get really good at anything that's truly important to you, but you're only devoting at most 4 hours a month to it. How long would it take you to learn a new language if you only learned and practiced 1 hour a week? How long would it take you to see muscle growth if you were going to the gym once a week? It's impossible. Your brain or your body doesn't have the time to settle into a new routine to make real changes. And in the space in between sessions, you tend to lose a lot of the progress that you got in any particular session. So if we want to see real progress in anything, we need to engage with that thing much more often. Sure, going to the gym once a week is better than not going at all, but would you ever see any noticeable progress? Honestly, I don't really think so. Next up, there's the whole idea that you can talk, rationalize, and analyze your way to emotional wellness. I've been saying for years that emotional healing is not an intellectual activity. I don't think that you can think your way out of trauma and emotional pain any more than you can think your way to bigger muscles. That's just not how it works. People go and talk out their problems in therapy, trying to connect the dots, hoping for a revelation that will take their pain away, and I just don't think that that's effective. If I explained to you why you had a headache, would that make the headache go away? Of course not. So if we know that understanding physical pain doesn't make it go away, what makes us think that understanding emotional pain and the root cause will make it go away? If I explained to you why you had a headache, you'd go, well, thanks, that's great, but what do we do about it? Now, I do acknowledge that there are definitely some benefits to the understanding part. Firstly, this is a crucial first step for a lot of people. when they don't really recognize or accept that they have legitimate issues that have been buried to work through, sometimes it's very crucial. It's important to get that first perspective and that belief and that understanding before any other real healing can happen. After all, we can't consciously choose to change something if we don't know that we're doing it. And I also think that therapy has been incredibly helpful for our collective progress in mental health. Like 50 years ago, people didn't take mental health seriously, and if therapy hadn't become popular and accepted, we never would have gotten this far. It never would have gotten to be part of the mainstream conversation in society. It was absolutely crucial in advancing society's perspective on mental health, and I'm grateful for that. So I'm not saying that the understanding and analysis part is completely useless, but I think that there are limitations to how far that analysis and how far talking about it can get us. Plus, I do really think that when it comes to the understanding part of mental health, it's more important to understand the general rules and principles of how the human mind deals with pain and the subconscious cycles that we all fall victim to in relation to trauma and defense mechanisms than it is to understand the nitty-gritty of your specific pain and trauma. Once you understand that you have built up defense mechanisms around your pain to keep yourself safe, you don't necessarily need to dive into what exact pain did you build those exact defense mechanisms around. You can just turn your attention to the defense mechanisms themselves, pay attention to those, and start recognizing, oh, right, they are defense mechanisms. They're not accurate reflections of reality. They're just things that I'm doing to try to keep myself safe, and you can remind yourself that you are safe, and you can start working through that pain without trying to focus on the thing that happened 20 years ago. I think that the deepest healing that happens in therapy isn't found in the intellectual breakthroughs and revelations. It's when some revelation brings to the surface buried emotions. And because you know therapy to be a safe space, you finally allow those emotions to come to the surface and to move through you. You let yourself cry them out, or scream, or shake, or laugh, whatever. Healing happens in the emotional experiences of purging, not the intellectual part. And yes, that absolutely happens from time to time in therapy, and it is beautiful. I just don't think that it happens quite often enough in therapy, and I think there's distractions with the whole analysis part, and I don't think that talking about it in scheduled sessions is the most direct and effective way to accomplish that goal of getting emotions to finally move through you. I think that your body is already trying to help you heal. The emotions are already trying to move through you on a daily basis. And if you learn to get your head out of the way and to feel safe in your life in general, healing can happen much more naturally in your daily life when you're getting triggered, when those emotions are trying to move through you, than it can in scheduled sessions in an office. Which brings me to another pretty serious issue, that scheduled therapy sessions often don't function the way we need them to. In the sense that there are times in your real life when you need help, or you need skills, or you need tools, or you need guidance in the moment, but your therapist isn't there. So you have to just stuff away your pain when you're feeling it and hope to talk about it later. And then, if on the day that you're going to therapy, you happen to be feeling good, you either end up wasting the session because you're not in the right headspace to do any real healing, or you end up having to focus in on your pain on a day that otherwise could have been a happy day. And I think that that does us a disservice. I think that practicing feeling good when we feel good is a super important part of good mental health. Your body needs to learn that it's safe to feel good and to not always be focused on pain. And then getting you to focus on your pain when you're otherwise feeling good actually trains your brain to cling more to that pain and to your victim mentality. And it trains you to think that it's never safe to fully feel good. Basically, I'm saying that emotional healing doesn't always fit neatly into a pre-planned schedule. You can't book healing into a calendar ahead of time and force it to happen when you want it to happen. It has to be a more free-flowing experience where you can use the skills and tools that you need in the moments that you need them. And look, honestly, all of those issues that I just mentioned, That's even just the tip of the iceberg. There are other issues I can bring up, including how hard it is to actually find someone you resonate with enough to truly open up to them. The fact that many therapists haven't actually been through the kinds of pain they're trying to help people through. They just studied it out of a book, and therefore they sometimes lack some necessary compassion and personal understanding around it. There's the problem with how long it takes to really get into the groove and feel comfortable with a therapist, and the risk of them moving, retiring, or otherwise being unable to continue with you and being forced to start over with someone else who can't really just pick up where you left off with the last person. I've heard that happen so many times. There's also the issue that therapy often fails to give practical, useful advice that can be used throughout one's life. I cannot tell you how many times I've spoken to people who had done literally decades of therapy. And when I ask them, what tools have you learned to deal with this pain? They tell me none. There's also the fact that digging up and focusing on past trauma can often serve to re-traumatize you, especially when you're bringing up things that you're not prepared to deal with because you haven't actually learned any skills or tools or built the emotional muscles of how to deal with that pain once you find it. There's also the fact that labels and diagnoses often get people to cling to those titles like badges of honor, using them to justify their pain and settle into it, as opposed to learning to believe that they can actually overcome their issues. It's like they've been in pain for so long that getting this title and getting this label finally makes them feel like it's not their fault, and it's not their fault, it's a good thing, but then they hold on to that and they absorb it into their identity. Sometimes people getting told that you have an anxiety disorder just makes them attach themselves to that disorder, and it makes them feel doomed to suffer with it forever. So it actually keeps them stuck. But none of those are the issues that I actually wanted to talk about today, or why I decided to make this video. Today, I wanted to talk about therapy's lack of structure and curriculum. Now again, maybe not every therapist in the world works this way, but in my experience and that of my clients, this tends to be the vast majority of cases. Once a week, or however often you happen to go, you go into the therapist's office and they ask you how things are going, and you talk about whatever's on your mind that day. You'll focus in on your most recent triggers or whatever problems or emotions you happen to be facing that week, but there's no planned path. It's largely a series of one-off sessions where you're just dealing with things reactively and trying to understand, analyze, and maybe strategize your way around specific in-the-moment problems. As a whole, that might sound well and good. I mean, at least you're dealing with stuff, right? And your first reaction might even be to think that what I just described sounds perfect. Like, what else would you expect, right? Of course, you're just going to deal with whatever's coming up in the moment. That's all you can really do, isn't it? Well, if that is your belief or your instinct, my response is no. That's not all you can do, and that's why I'm making this video. After my own personal experience with healing anxiety and depression, and years worth of guiding people through their own healings, seeing them say time and time again that they got more results in weeks or months with me and my approach than in years of therapy, I can say with some conviction that I just don't think that an unstructured, reactionary, one-at-a-time approach spread out over the course of years or months is the most effective way to consistently and progressively build long-term emotional mastery. Obviously, emotional mastery is about learning how to handle what's coming up in the moment. But is analyzing your problems one by one based on how you're feeling on any particular day without a long-term plan really the best way to make sure that you're constantly progressing in the right direction? Imagine that you were trying to learn math, and every time you saw your math teacher, and let's just say that was once a week, so every time you saw them, they didn't have a curriculum or a lesson planned. Instead of running you through a curated process of learning the various skills, functions, and formulas in the right order that you need to truly understand math and to be able to solve any math problem you could ever face, every day you just walked into class and asked them about whatever problem you were facing that day. One day you tell them that you need to know how much 6 pies will cost if each one is $8.49. So the math teacher helps you get to that answer, but doesn't necessarily teach you the core principle of multiplication or how to apply what you learned that day to the next problem that you're going to solve. Then, the next session, you go and you say, well, you need help figuring out the volume of an oddly shaped toy. And the teacher helps you figure it out, but doesn't necessarily teach you the formulas underneath the process, the formulas that you would need to figure out the volume of a different oddly shaped toy, or how to do any of this yourself. If every session you're focused on solving one specific practical problem, and there's no structure, and there's no curriculum, and you're constantly bouncing around from topic to topic with no planned out way to actually build the core skills and strength that you'll need, how long do you think it will take you to learn everything you need to know? Do you think that you'll ever truly learn math to its fullest that way? Personally, I don't think that process will ever get us to where we want to go. It will absolutely be helpful, because you'll get answers to some math problems along the way that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise, and you will probably learn and pick up some stuff for yourself along the way. But I don't think that the average person would ever become a truly skilled mathematician, no matter how long you continue on with that process. Only the most gifted prodigies would ever be able to navigate through that process and come out with professional mathematician skills. It seems to me that if you want to get really good at something, there is always a process to learning it. That's what makes the difference between a classically trained pianist who can sight read anything you put in front of them and play any style of music without fail, and the hobbyist who learned whatever songs interested them at the moment and was never really put through that ringer of deep training. There needs to be a structure and a curriculum. There is a full set of recognized skills and tools for any art or trade that all need to be learned in order to truly master it. And they need to be learned in that particular order so that what you're learning one day is building on what you learned the last time and is preparing you for what you're going to learn the next time. Now, once you've learned all of that stuff, you can build on that or you can find your own way, but there is a process to learning these arts and these skills and these trades. And I believe that this is how emotional healing needs to be also. I don't think that the most effective way is to talk logically about our deepest in-the-moment problems once a week, jumping around from topic to topic without structure or curriculum, and focusing on buried trauma or specific one-off problems that you're having on a week-by-week basis, without learning skills and tools that can be applied to any and every situation. I think there's a core set of skills and tools that anyone can learn, that can teach us how to handle any and every challenge that we experience on a daily basis, and that these skills should be learned in a particular order so that they build on each other as you learn them. And I think that it's far more effective to condense the learning of all of these skills into a short, intensive period, so that you can actually put all of the pieces of the puzzle together in your mind instead of trying to space this out once a week over a period of years. I mean, do you know anyone who got really good at anything doing it 1 hour a week? I think you should be learning how to handle the triggers that you're encountering on a day-to-day basis, instead of focusing on analyzing why you're getting triggered. And I think that you should practice handling your smaller triggers and challenges first, so that you can build the strength and the muscle to handle those smaller challenges while gaining the confidence to work your way up to bigger ones. That's why I look at mental health as emotional fitness training, because we need to build muscles naturally and gradually, and we can do so by merely confronting the triggers that are already happening anyway in your daily life. The moments when you're getting triggered are your opportunity to heal, because that is when buried trauma is coming up to the surface and revealing itself to you. Trauma doesn't show up as memories and logic most of the time. It shows up as fear, judgment, anger, defensiveness, and sarcasm. It shows up as the turning feeling in your stomach and the tightness in your chest. It shows up as all of your triggers and defense mechanisms, and it's right then, in that moment, when you're getting triggered, that we need to have the skills, tools, strength, and awareness to process that inner pain. In the real world, in real time, when we're getting triggered. Not just in the safety of your therapist's office once a week during pre-scheduled sessions. Now, maybe most importantly, I think that we should learn how to move past analyzing our emotions and our triggers, and to learn how to deal with them head on instead, without needing to track them down to past trauma, because analyzing our pain, ultimately, is a distraction from truly feeling it. Plus, I don't think you'll ever truly understand your pain until after you've healed it. I don't think that you can really understand your triggers and defense mechanisms while you are still succumbing to them. You need to learn how to work through the emotional discomfort first. And then once you've broken the pattern, you'll be able to look back and go, oh, that's why I was doing that. I mean, imagine trying to explain to a child having a tantrum why they don't need to act that way. You're never going to get through to them in the moment. Only once they've calmed down will you have any chance of reasoning with them. And it works the same way for our triggers and traumas. We are blinded by our defense mechanisms until we conquer them. So we can't fully understand them until we're out of them. So it's more important to deal with the pain first. Learn how to process that emotion. Learn how to not be afraid of it. Learn how to turn your attention to it and help your body move that discomfort through you so that you're not reacting to it with your defense mechanisms anymore. And then you will be able to understand why you are implementing that defense mechanism. Because ultimately you were implementing that defense mechanism so that you didn't have to feel the pain that was trying to move through you in that moment. That's the simple truth behind all of it. And lastly, I think it's better to have lessons and lectures that you can revisit time and time again until you really nail down these lessons and until the skills and wisdom that you're learning becomes second nature, like having a textbook that you can review, instead of having one-off conversations that fade into the wind once you walk out of the office. That's why I don't work with my clients in terms of sessions. I created a course that leads them step by step through a meticulously planned out journey of learning a complete set of skills and building a full toolbox to be able to turn any moment of emotional distress into a moment of healing and strengthening. Obviously, getting support and guidance along the way is important, but the core learning you need is in a solid step-by-step process, and it's laid out in this course. And we follow that structure without jumping around based on how you feel on any particular day. We build the skills so that you can handle how you feel on a particular day, but we don't jump around based on how you're feeling on a particular day. And I think that is the best way to build your emotional toolbox and get you self-reliant as quickly as possible. By learning practical skills that you can apply immediately instead of mucking about trying to analyze your pain first, you start suffering less right away. And you start building the right muscle, getting used to applying the skills in the right practical situations. And the more that you practice, the stronger that you get. So you can watch yourself getting better and stronger at applying these skills. You'll actively be seeing your growth, learning independence, and seeing that you really do have the power to react differently and to feel differently and to work through your pain. It builds confidence and motivation to keep doing the work because you're seeing progress. And you're seeing progress in weeks, not months or years. And honestly, sometimes, and I hear this a lot from clients, analyzing their pain and their past and their trauma in therapy actually demotivates them. It makes them feel more like a failure, sometimes more like a victim. It takes a long time to work through that initial analysis to start seeing some progress and feeling good about themselves again. So I think that learning how to apply these skills and tools and learning how to feel good first is much more effective because it will exponentially increase your motivation and your inspiration and your willingness to keep on doing this work. Now, I know that sometimes people are concerned that a generic approach, meaning that a course where the lessons are the same for everyone, won't be as effective as personalized therapy because it's not directly made for you. But that's a fallacy. Of course, everyone has different struggles and challenges. Everyone's initial pain and background is different, and everyone will experience different roadblocks along the way. Just like students in a classroom, everyone has different questions and gets stuck at different places. That's why having support and guidance along the way is crucial. But no, you really don't need a set of skills or a path to learning them that's 100% uniquely designed for you. Therapy needs to operate that way because it's not focused on teaching a core set of skills. It's focused on analyzing you and your past. It's focused on assessing and analyzing problems in a reactionary way. But that's not what we're doing with this emotional fitness approach. Let's go back to the learning math example. On a particular day, you might need to calculate the area of an oddly shaped octagon, while I need to calculate the area of two overlapping circles in a square. Our specific challenges and tasks will be different. But does that mean that we should have completely different approaches to learning geometry and algebra altogether in the first place? Of course not. We'll both learn together in the classroom, and we'll get the full set of skills and formulas that we'll need to tackle any problem that's put in front of us. And the most efficient way to do that is through a structured curriculum. Then we can each individually take those skills and tools that we learned and learn how to apply them to any problem that each one of us will individually face in our lives. That's how emotional mastery works in my mind. It's better to take a structured approach to learning a core set of skills and tools that can then be applied to any situation that you're going to face than it is to tackle specific one-off problems in a reactionary way without a core structured, fundamental set of skills and tools underneath it. This approach that I'm talking about does require a little more upfront dedication and commitment because we condense the learning into weeks or months rather than years. And it does require the willingness to not just soothe your pain and not just analyze it, but to actually work through it. But it's absolutely doable. And then you can move on with your life. You learn the skills in this condensed period, and you start to apply them, and you start to feel better, and the more that you apply them, you start getting better, stronger, healthier, happier every day by turning emotional healing into something that just happens naturally as you confront life's inevitable challenges and the triggered emotions that are already trying to move through you. You just incorporate this into your life. Getting better, getting stronger, getting healthier and happier just becomes living. So look, you can take it or leave it. I'm not trying to convince you of that or of anything. That's just been my experience and that of my clients, and I'm sharing it with you so that you can hear a new perspective and make up your own mind. So again, if you enjoy talk therapy and you think you're getting a lot out of it and you want to keep at it, that's truly awesome. Please keep at it. I'm really glad that you found what works for you. I encourage you to keep at it, and I wish you nothing but the best for you and for your therapist and for all of your therapist's other patients. I hope that they get to help many people and change many lives, and I hope that there are many other therapists out there continuing to do great work and changing even more lives. Like I said, lots of different approaches to mental health and emotional mastery. That's great. But if you resonate with what I said here today, if you agree with me about the limitations of talk therapy, if you're fed up with talking about your problems once a week, trying to analyze and rationalize your pain without learning practical skills that you can apply to your daily life, then I hope this video has given you some perspective so that you know you're not alone. And there are good reasons why this approach hasn't worked for you. It does not mean that you're broken and that nothing can help. It just means that you've been trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, and it makes complete sense why that hasn't worked. But you can find another approach. You can get better. And I really just hope that this video has inspired you not to give up. Just because that one approach that everyone talks about that has become so commonplace in society doesn't fit for you, doesn't mean that you can't get better. You just need to find something that resonates more with you. And that is my only real hope for this video, that it has inspired you not to blame yourself, not to judge yourself, and not to give up. Of course, if you resonate with the approach I laid out and you want help on this healing journey, feel free to reach out. I'm here to help. You can head to my website, www.benjisharercoaching.com, to learn more and to schedule a call with me if you'd like to talk. Or feel free to leave a comment with any questions you might have in the comment section below. I'll be checking in here periodically and will be happy to answer anything that's on your mind. Plus, of course, it does help the algorithm when you leave a comment, so please do. On that note, if you resonated with this video and you appreciated my perspective, please do like, subscribe, and share, and leave a comment and let me know you're here. It means a lot to know that my wisdom is landing with people, so I really do love to hear from you. Or if you want to tell me why you think I completely missed the point of therapy or am completely wrong, you can tell me that too. I am open to polite criticism and to having a discussion about it. So, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I really do hope you got something helpful from this video, and I will see you in the next one.